This is my thoughts and impressions of the Technics RS-M270X Cassette Deck. This is an early 1980s vintage cassette deck. Two heads, standard fair core erase head, and a Sendust alloy record playback head. Single capstan drive, full direct drive, no belts. This is also a full logic TTL soft touch control mode change cassette deck, including record mute, and pause, and so on. Okay, you have your standard fare controls here on the front. It's not going to be anything really amazingly different from any other cassette deck you may have used in the past. If anything, this is probably even more rudimentary compared to a lot of cassette decks you may have used. At least that's my experience here. One of the biggest things that I love about this cassette deck, it's really not the sound, it's not the performance, it's not even the price. It's reliability. Compared with all the other cassette decks I've had, this has been quirk-free. It doesn't have any kind of anomalies whatsoever. I do have a slightly dirty output level pot. That's basically it. The more expensive cassette deck I have here, the RS-M280, is already representing some kind of issue in regards to the transport. I have to start digging into that. My Nakamichi is beginning to fall into the dead motor syndrome from time to time. So that leaves basically my Akai Diatone 6300 from Japan directly. It is a Japan direct spec cassette deck, and this Technics RS-M270X. One of the biggest things I really love about this cassette deck is how simple it is to use. It's a great companion to my CD player that I purchased from a hi-fi shop. Actually, it's a repair shop more than a hi-fi shop, called the Technics SLP-770. And I've got a video of actually both of these going together somewhere else. This cassette deck is one of those kind of cassette decks where you really don't want anything fancy. You've already got a really nice 3-head cassette deck, for example. You just wanted to have a good playback cassette deck. A lot of your tapes are encoded in Dolby B, and you want to be able to play it back. That's surely fine, no problem at all. But you are curious about making noise-free cassettes, and that's where DBX comes in. Now, this is a very powerful and aggressive, what they refer to as a compander, compressor expander. During record, it compresses the recording immensely, all the way from, I believe, 50 hertz all the way up to 20K. That's a lot more aggressive than even Dolby C. Okay, so when you play it back, you're going to get back anywhere from 30 to 40 dB of actually increased dynamic range, or an improvement of signal to noise. It's usually at least as good, if not slightly better, than CD quality signal to noise, which is really unheard of in a cassette, because you're typically going to see around 50 some odd dB, maybe 60 some odd dB without noise reduction whatsoever. Typically with Dolby C, you might be seeing somewhere around 65, maybe to 75, maybe if you're lucky, 80 dB with Dolby C. Dolby S, you could go even higher, but DBX still floors all of those noise reductions by getting you all the way up to easily 90, maybe even in some cases almost 100 dB of signal to noise. So that's the biggest draw for me on that, is just banishing the noise entirely while still maintaining that great analog sound that none of my digital recorders can duplicate, not even the one I'm recording on here, my Tascam DR100 Mark III, which is still my favorite recorder of all time. So the techniques here, the biggest draw, reliability. Decent sound, yeah, absolutely. It's not going to sound as good as my Diatone, my Akai Diatone 6300, or my Nakamichi, or even the 280. I don't think it's going to. It just isn't built the way where it could beat those machines. But it is an honest machine. It's a very simple machine, a very reliable machine. And I think, again, one of my favorite machines of all time. And if you are looking for an RS-M270X, I don't think you're going to do really wrong. The only weakness I could see about this cassette deck would be the mode idler wheel. That tends to go bad. That's really about it. And that to this day is fairly easy to get. I have a spare one that I keep in inventory. So when it decides to go bad, I just pop open the cassette deck, get into the transport, change that mode idler. I'm basically done. So other than the usual things that might wear out, like electrolytic capacitors, this machine's as solid as granite rock. So Do I highly recommend this cassette deck? You bet. Like I said, short review, not going to talk too much. But I really love this deck, and I'm keeping it. Thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you.